I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
I've always been terrified, still am, of water, dark water, seawater, or, river water.
Natalie Wood. Her body was found floating in the water yesterday off Santa Catalina Island in California. The initial investigation shows the 43-year-old film star apparently drowned after falling from an inflatable dinghy on her way to shore from the family yacht anchored in Isthmus Cove.
Natalie Wood and her husband, actor Robert Wagner, along with 2 other people, had spent the weekend at Catalina aboard their 60-foot yacht, the Splendor. The foursome had dinner Saturday night on shore. Wagner's attorney said that Wood and Wagner then returned to the Splendor anchored offshore. Later, when Wagner went below to their stateroom, he found Miss Wood was not there and discovered she apparently had left the yacht aboard a small rubber dinghy. After a search by lifeguards and law enforcement officials from the island, her body was discovered Sunday morning, floating in this cove. Sheriff's investigators said death apparently was due to accidental drowning, but an autopsy has been scheduled for later today to determine the exact cause of death. Last night, Wagner's attorney talked with Entertainment Tonight reporter Catherine Mann about the case.
Yes. What happened is she went downstairs in the boat to the master bedroom, and RJ thought she was going to sleep. And then he went down there 10 or 15 minutes later, and when he found out she was gone, he noticed the dinghy was gone. And he went out with his boat to try to find her. And then he immediately called the Coast Guard, and they made a search and did not discover her or the dinghy until this morning about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, fuck it. Sounds believable to me.
Wood starred in classics like A Miracle on 34th Street, Splendor in the Grass, and of course West Side Story. She also made headlines by marrying Robert Wagner, divorcing him, then remarrying him years later.
Incredible story, and what a development here. In 1981, Wagner and Wood invited Christopher Walken to join them for Thanksgiving on their yacht.
Wait a minute, Christopher Walken?
I hid this uncomfortable hunk of metal up my ass 2 years.
Oh, okay, they were in a movie together.
I made that for you.
What is it?
It's me.
Brainstorm?
Accidental drowning was the official cause of death, but today's news conference called by Chief Los Angeles County Coroner, Dr. Thomas Noguchi, left several key questions unanswered. First, the facts as Noguchi presented them.
Miss Wood, it appears, based on our investigation, around noon, around the midnight, shortly after midnight of the Sunday morning, she apparently attempted to get on to the dinghy, slipped and fell in the water, unable to return to the dinghy or the boat. And later, the body was found about a mile away, and the boat dinghy was also found close to the shore.
Noguchi said there was no evidence of foul play. He did indicate, however, that tests revealed Miss Wood was technically drunk, but continually referred to Wood's condition as slightly inebriated. He nevertheless admitted that alcohol might have been one reason why the actress was rendered unconscious. Noguchi also said that a heated but non-violent argument had ensued between Wood's husband, Robert Wagner, and actor Christopher Walken, a guest on the yacht. But Noguchi could not confirm what the argument was about or whether it indeed was the reason Miss Wood decided to leave the ship alone.
Argument apparently took place not involving Miss Wagner, but Mr. Wagner and other actor, and Miss Wagner apparently did not involve, and apparently that may be the cause of herself separating from this group.
Mr. Walken, you mind if I ask you a few questions? Why are you dancing? There's not even any music. Dude, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
When all this first occurred, no one had said anything to me. I heard the news second, third hand through a friend of mine who called me on the phone, and then on the news on television. And the only thing that RJ ever said to me was, it was an accident, you've got to believe me, and that was it. I know that I really take a great deal of responsibility for not having pushed more, done more, but I was in such shock and denial and confused, and as I still am to this day, actually.
It was a Sunday morning. When I picked up the phone, it was RJ, and he just screamed into the phone, "She's gone."
The coroner's autopsy indicated Miss Wood had died by accident. She attempted to board this rubber dinghy. It was here that she fell and drowned.
That story is 100% false. Natalie would never in a million years take that dinghy out by herself. She would have gotten me.
Dennis Davern was a member of their family. He was both a bodyguard and a confidant of Natalie's. And I think it was very hard for him to tell this story.
I just didn't want my whole life to go by without having the truth come out.
There was a fight. RJ broke a bottle. The fight continued. Natalie left the room, and I guess, started to prepare herself to go to bed, and evidently they were not quite finished with the fight.
Natalie went to her stateroom, and Robert Wagner followed, and they carried on their arguing in the stateroom.
Dennis told me that he heard bad physical noises, was his verbiage, coming from the stateroom. He then went to the stateroom and knocked on the door.
That RJ pulled open the door and told him to leave them alone, and that he walked out, he walked back, walked around and to the back of the boat. When he got to the back of the boat, RJ was already standing out there and said to Dennis, "She's gone."
Well, I just told police the arguing that was going on the boat, the tension that was building between Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken of Robert Wagner's jealousy.
What we think is that she went outside and slipped on the swim step and hit her head.
The latest plot turn, a just-released coroner report says Wood had scratches and fresh bruises on her arms and legs. The manner of death changed from accidental to undetermined.
He's actually the last person to see her alive.
Investigators now want to question Wagner again, but he's refusing to talk.
Back then, he gave them a brief interview, and he never told them exactly what happened on the boat. I mean, later on in his book, he wrote a different version of what he told them back then.
I just want the truth for once and for all. I mean, I just find this whole thing a living nightmare. He said, she said, people getting on sides. There are no sides. There's the truth and there's lies. It's as simple as that. The truth is easy. Lies are tough. You get caught in lies.
Originally, this video was going to be on the Natalie Wood blind item on Crazy Days and Nights, but in order to even get into that, we first had to cover the murder disappearance. Golden Globes 2018. After rape-accused Kirk Douglas's standing ovation, Twitter loses its collective shit. The 75th edition of the Golden Globes Award took place in Beverly Hills, California on January 7th, and the night revolved around calling out sexual harassment, sexual assault, and gender disparity in all fields. Almost all the stars showed up to the award function dressed in black as a show of solidarity, and a movement called Time's Up was set in motion to combat all of the above-mentioned issues. Most of the speeches of the night focused on talking about sexual abuse, and several notable people were called out for their past sexual misconduct. The night also saw Catherine Zeta-Jones present an award for Best Screenplay, alongside her wheelchair-ridden father-in-law and veteran actor, 101-year-old Kirk Douglas. The awards show took a moment to honor Douglas, and all the attendees got to their feet as they gave acclaimed senior actor a standing ovation. Twitter, however, was not having it. There was an intense and immediate backlash, as Twitter was quick to point out that Douglas himself has been accused of sexual assault and been mired in a rape case for several years. It is rumored that Douglas raped deceased actor Natalie Wood in a hotel room when she was 16. Several people took issue with the fact that Dlux was celebrated on a night which was centered around calling out sexual abuse and declaring that the time for putting up with that quietly is up. On Crazy Days and Nights, this story concerns one of the biggest male stars ever and one of the most beloved female stars to ever live. One day she was invited to meet with this movie star about an upcoming major role. The man was a legend already and was very powerful. Thinking she herself was powerful and savvy, she accepted the invite. In his hotel room, she never saw it coming. Without even discussing the film, this actor, drunk already, began making a pass at her. She politely declined and excused herself. He wouldn't have it. He literally threw her down, slapped the hell out of her, and ripped her clothes off. He shouted obscenities at her, continually punched and held her arms so tight he left scars and bruises. He raped her repeatedly, spitting on her, and did permanent damage to her body. She was bleeding everywhere, with a battered face. She passed out. When she came to, the actor was still in the room gloating and told her to come see him tomorrow night and he might give her a role. He laughed at her as she fell down. Her legs were wobbly and weak. She gathered her torn clothes and tried to walk out of the hotel room into her car. Blood and semen running down her legs and bruises already forming on her face. Her mom said she must have made the actor mad and offended him. They called the doctor, who took her to the hospital secretly to have her treated. The studio knew and did nothing. After all, the star actor was a money machine. She grew into an amazing woman with a legendary career, but she never forgot or forgave and never got over what happened. Even after marriage and kids, if she saw this actor anywhere, she would almost convulse and cry. And worst of all, Hollywood and the world continued to honor him, pay him, and treat him like a king. Today, he's still alive and barely holding on. But those who knew the truth are still hoping and praying he will rot in hell for eternity. That all his good deeds and donations will never mask the truth. So when the time comes, and then Kirk Douglas, the superstar actor, finally dies, there will be tributes and honors about him. Just remember that he is a monster who never repented, apologized, or showed any sorrow for destroying the lives of others, especially the life of the young beloved actress named Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood's mother was the ultimate callous stage mom. Natalie Wood's death is one of the most tragic and mysterious in Hollywood history, but reports since then have made it clear that her life was no walk in the park either. Her mom made things particularly hellish for the start of Wood's acting career, which began just before she turned 5 years old. To get her to cry on cue, Wood's mother would rip off live butterflies' wings in front of the empathetic child. The biography of Natalie Wood tells a horrific story of Wood getting viciously raped when she was 16 years old. To make a traumatic experience even worse, Wood's mother conspired to cover up the rape, telling her underage daughter that it would be good for her career in the long run.
I don't think you should strive to be 100. I think you should try to do something worthwhile in life. Help people. I made a lot of money being an SOB. When you have been born poor, you have sympathy to help other people. So I have given all my money away.
Fucking stoned. I got a motherfucking spaceship. Oh, fuck. Cool, I got it.